Hey y'all, it's your girl Gemini Jazz, and we are back with another video. And today we are going to be discussing Chiron through all 12 zodiac signs. Okay, so first and foremost, before we dive into all of this good stuff about Chiron, because we have lots of things to discuss when it comes to Chiron. It's such a deep and mysterious energy to kind of navigate. Okay, but before we get into all of that, I'd just like to say thank you for being here. If you are new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope things have been going well on your end and all that good stuff. And I don't have any announcements outside of what I always, kind of suggest. But if you are looking to dive more into what we're going to talk about in this video and get readings or more insight individually on your chart, hit the description box below because I have all of my contact information, my website, my social platforms, so on and so forth. And you can access me and all of my services, including my membership, the Celestial City, that is only $33.33 per month, as well as the readings that I have available at this time. Okay, so now let's dive into this video about Chiron in the signs. So Chiron, what is Chiron, right? Chiron is an asteroid, and we all know about that, right? It's an asteroid, it's not a planet, and it's often referred to as the wounded healer, right? Chiron is connected to our deepest wounds, right? The knowledge and also the healing that comes along with that. So, the self-healers, we all have that ability to heal ourselves. We all have the ability to know what these wounds and whatnot are stemming from. We just have to tap in. So Chiron is utilized in astrology to show us where our emotional baggage is, so to speak. So the lesson that Chiron evolves basically is the ways that we recognize and deal with our deepest wounds, right? Or sometimes how we don't deal with our deepest wounds. And a lot of that comes from our earliest encounters with life, with people, our relating experiences, right? Memories and things that are taught to be hidden, right? Because they are basically deemed unpleasant or not good or harmful or painful. And so therefore they must then be unacceptable. And so because of these energies, this is where emotions like guilt and shame, abandonment, low self-esteem, low self-worth, fears about being rejected, unworthiness, all of these things come into play because of how society deems certain emotions and certain encounters with life to be unacceptable. Now, wherever Chiron falls in our birth chart, preferably by sign, right? First and foremost, you got to recognize the sign, which is why this video is here. So recognize what sign Chiron is, and then you take into account the house placement. Where is Chiron in your house? Like with the first house, second house, eighth house, wherever, because then that gives it a different flavor to what's happening with Chiron being in, just say, Aries, or Chiron in Virgo, so on and so forth. So once you take into account the sign, as well as the house placement, then you have to pay attention to the aspects that it forms with other planets and other houses and whatnot in your chart. So you can recognize by seeing all these things, the area in which we feel vulnerable or quote unquote weak, or these things that might really evoke feelings of low self-esteem and low self-worth that we were previously speaking about. Okay, so Chiron's placement, in turn, what it does is it shines a light on our past hurts, our wounds, things, even such as like childhood trauma, all of those experiences, those ill experiences, from previous, things, even maybe in past life type of situations, depending on where it falls in your chart, right? So this is what we like to call emotional baggage, right? So this is what it's doing is shining a light, so to speak, or revealing, how our repeated interactions with others or with the world, excuse me, with the world, so to speak, will provoke our insecurities, and maybe even, you know, what we deem as being failures. So there's also an option, right? This is where that quote unquote free will comes in, because although it's revealing it, we still have to make a choice to see it, right? So that's kind of where that line goes in between that Chiron energy. Chiron's purpose is to make us realize that our weak spots are not feelings that we can erase or disregard, rather than they are something that need to be embraced. They cannot necessarily be denied, right? We cannot just say, you know, this terrible thing that I feel about myself needs to be ignored, because it only amplifies more of that emotion, more of that feeling, right? So let's think of it this way. Take peekaboo, the game peekaboo, for example. Just because you're covering your eyes, it does not mean the person or the thing on the other side of your hand does not exist. You're simply choosing not to see it. So that's the way that we can see Chiron. Chiron gives us an opportunity to recognize that there's something still on the other side of what we can't see. We have to literally just make the choice to pull our hands down and say, I see this for what this is. Now, what are we going to do about it? Facing your fears, facing those insecurities and those feelings of guilt and shame and whatnot. Okay, so if we forget the experience, right, this is how we think. If we forget the experience itself, then our bodies and minds will forget it also. No, that's not the truth, right? Our bodies and minds will still contain that feeling, right, as a sensory or a trace memory. And if you have not read the book, The Body Holds the Number, it goes into more detail about this on a psychological aspect of things, okay? So now, how do we use Chiron for our growth and our gain, right? So all these feelings of shame and guilt and all these low vibrational emotions that we're speaking about, right? But how can we in turn transmute that energy and turn the pain into purpose, right? And making that purpose, or making that all of that lucrative for us and even pleasurable, right? So Chiron's cycle of reoccurrence, basically, Chiron, what it does in turn, it creates these situations, right, in life, these circumstances in life that's going to trigger us. But in turn, the reward comes from Chiron when we learn to integrate our painful experiences, allowing these triggers to invite us to navigate why we're being triggered, where this is stemming from, how can we grow through this, right? And integrate these experiences as a part of our identities, right? So this is turning that pain into purpose and also pleasure. Right. So, but keep in mind that as long as we continue to view these imperfections that need to be removed or purged from us, then we'll continue to see them as flaws in others as well as ourselves, right? Because it's all about mirroring. Every situation and every person in our life is mirroring some aspect of ourselves, right? So, this is going to continue to impact our capacity for relationships and mutual understanding of others if we continue to see Chiron, or continue to see our wounds or these feelings that we have, our insecurities, as flaws, so to speak, okay, instead of using them to empower us to actually help heal other people. So now, without further ado, let's start navigating Chiron through the signs. Hey friends, so in this video, we are going to cover Chiron in the sign of Libra. Okay, so with Chiron in Libra, relationships of all kinds have left some type of wound. And people with Chiron in Libra typically have a feeling that they need to be in a relationship, but they cannot find that balance or that harmony between themselves and others. So there's always some type of strain or some type of imbalance going on when it comes to partnerships as well as their commitments. You will find that these people with Chiron and Libra make it very hard for themselves to commit to something for the long term, or even just make a decision, right? Because, you know, Libra has that ability anyway to where they can kind of straddle the fence on making decisions and seeing things for what they are, like being very decisive, right? Because it's the opposite energy of that Aries energy, right? So also with the relationships, this can bring feelings of fear and anxiety when they are meeting people or when they are in relationship with other people. So it's always this inherent kind of like undertone of fear, anxiety. They have the anxious attachment style when they are in relationships potentially because they overanalyze and they overassess things a lot when it comes to people's reactions and people's responses, and also making a decision. It has a lot to do with their confidence within themselves versus, displacing that confidence or that ability in other people. Okay, so this placement typically makes, people pleasers, out of fear of being rejected. So they tend to just kind of bend to the will of others instead of focusing on themselves, right? So when it comes to Chiron and Libra, you can find the cure or the antidote to this in the first house, or kind of where the Aries energy is in their house, right? So find that in Aries, the Aries sector of their chart, or within their first house, because it's always the opposite energy of that. Okay, being able to tap into their own individuality and focusing on themselves is going to help heal and nurture that Chiron and Libra. Also, they can heal by finding balance within the self and others, and developing a healthy relationship with themselves first, instead of trying to create genuine connections with others first. They need to build that connection within themselves, right? So that's that looking in the first house, or looking at the Aries energy on how they can create this for themselves, so that way they can attract those relationships and those partnerships that are in alignment and bring harmony to their life. So this is what we like to call the mirror placement, right? So you're basically mirroring everything that you need to kind of work on and accept within yourself, in others. So you will attract the level of partnership that you are with yourself. You will attract that in someone else with this placement. Okay. So people with this placement, you'll find them in like relationship therapists or matchmakers, or maybe even like lawyers or mediators, things of that nature, to where they're assisting people or helping people in that area, being able to be committed to something, kind of making some type of harmony or bringing balance to something. Okay. Also helping people find relationships. So with Chiron and Libra, this wound is really associated with how you relate to others. And that could manifest by feeling alone and incomplete when you are not in relationship. Also, this can create a longing for a soulmate, or searching for a companionship to your detriment, where you completely negate that you are a whole being, right? So you um, don't feel worthy, you don't feel whole or complete unless you're in a relationship. And so that kind of makes you have the low self-esteem kind of energy, that you're nothing without someone else. Okay. Also, this placement has a fear of being alone, and it makes you stay in relationships longer than you're well beyond their expiration date. Even if the relationship is not good for you, like you will find yourself staying for the sake of being afraid of being alone, or afraid of being rejected, or having to get out in the dating scene again, and what that looks like and what that feels like, and not taking risks and whatnot, right? Because the opposite of that Chiron in Libra is Aries. And so Aries is all about taking risks and being confident. So this is the opposite of that in essence. And so also these people tend to hide behind a mask, and they pretend to be different with others than they are when they are alone. So keep that in mind as well. So there's a strong need for beauty and harmony, and also being very creative and very, very artistic. And sometimes they don't tap into that energy. Sometimes they completely negate being creative and artistic. And also they will completely negate, beautifying themselves or their homes or their environment, or being harmonious. Sometimes you'll see people with Chiron and Libra that only use beauty to put on a mask, right? Because they have that inherent of self-consciousness, right? Also, they will be the complete opposite of harmony. They will create strife and discord because of that turmoil that they live in. Also, the creative and artistic side won't come through because it's been stifled for so long. Okay. And so people with Chiron and Libra, the healing journey really involves More so like reconciling your needs with those of others and yourself, right? So understanding what you need and what, your expectations of what you're going to receive from other people. And the gift that you have once you really find that balance between self and serving others, or focusing on self and focusing on others, is that you end up recognizing that your true soulmate is found within you. You are your own soulmate. And with that whole connection to the self, you end up attracting the very thing that you need. um, so keep that in mind as well. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is an attractive energy. So it's about magnetizing that and attracting what you want by just staying in place and focusing on where you are, being present in that, and then allowing the things that are for you to come to you. Okay. Other people with displacement, or excuse me, other people will find that when they are around a person with displacement, that they're reflecting their own needs, right? So back to the people with displacement, so it's kind of like that mirror effect, right? So hypothetically speaking, just say I'm around someone, and they're reflecting something in them that I recognize, right? Just say someone is really self-conscious about, their weight or their appearance in some kind of way, and it is repulsive to me. That is also something that might be reflected to me, because that's something that I'm needing to recognize within myself. So people with displacement will reflect, the needs that they need for themselves, if that makes sense. So this is also showing, the Chiron Libra placement people what they're missing as well. And so alternatively, what this can do is like can show you, oh, okay, this person is doing this with their life, or this person is doing that. And instead of embracing it and being inspired, they can create envy also, excuse me. So this also is a possibility as well, because it's showing you what you're missing, but it's also triggering that lack of confidence and the self-esteem issues that are associated with displacement, to where you don't feel that you are worthy or capable of going after that, or even deserving of having what people are showing you that you are, supposed to have, right? And supposed to do something that you're possibly even passionate about. So also keep in mind that through the process of projection, because that's what this is, the process of projection, people with displacement can discover that they already possess these qualities, right? Which is why you are attracting these types of energies to you, these types of relationships, these situations, and these partnerships, right? And also, keep in mind that the people with displacement, they already have what they're looking for. Like if they are looking for a partnership, if they're looking for a success, if they're looking for this relationship or this commitment or whatever it is, they already have that. They just have not really tapped into it to recognize it. So being able to recognize the innate wholeness within themselves, within their true self, will help them achieve their inner balance. Also, when they end up connecting to their true self, they'll discover the ability to heal through therapeutic relationships. So their relationships will be healing in essence, right? And also they can empower, or they can be empowered by conflict, right? Because Libra is all about harmony, so it's the opposite of conflict. But they can be empowered by the conflict and learn how to stay true to themselves, even in the process of trying to trust, right? Trusting the process of relating to someone else, trusting the process of being committed to someone else, even in lieu of their fears and their anxieties, rejection and whatnot. And so the Chiron and Libra placement has a need to, recognize that they don't have to hide any part of themselves. Every aspect of themselves is true. Every aspect of themselves make them whole and complete. And they just have to recognize that they are perfect as they are. Okay. And not this perceived fake perfection kind of thing. So that is that. And that's all that I have for Libra, the Chiron and Libra placement. So if you are looking to dive deeper into your Chiron placement or your natal chart, please feel free to reach out to me. You can hit the description box below and you can navigate to my website where you can purchase your readings and your Chiron candles, or sign up for my membership. That's $33 per month. All right. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a wonderful time.